There's a kind of strength that doesn't shout. It doesn't show up in loud arguments, emotional breakdowns, or constant explanations. It's quiet, steady, unshakable. And it comes from one thing: emotional detachment. But somewhere along the way, people began to misunderstand this word. They think detachment means apathy. They think it means being cold, unfeeling, disconnected. That's not true. Real detachment is not about becoming numb, it's about becoming free. Think of how often you lose yourself in emotions that don't serve you. You replay conversations in your head for hours, wondering what you should have said. You check your phone, waiting for a text that doesn't come. You let someone's tone, expression, or opinion decide your mood for the rest of the day. And you call that being emotional, when in truth, it's being imprisoned. The truth is, emotional overattachment is one of the biggest sources of human suffering. We get attached to people who don't value us. We get attached to outcomes we can't control. We get attached to versions of ourselves that no longer exist. And when those attachments crack, we mistake the pain for love, when it's really resistance to letting go. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop bleeding for things that don't care back. It means learning how to love without losing yourself, to give without expecting, to stay soft without being shattered. You see, emotional detachment is not a wall, it's a filter. It doesn't block out life. It lets through what's real and keeps out what's poison. It allows you to feel deeply and ease, but consciously. To be kind but not naive. To forgive, but not forget your worth. Most people never learn this art. They swing between extremes. They either care too much or stop caring at all. They either drown in their emotions or bury them alive, and both are prisons. Think about the times you've been consumed by emotional chaos. A relationship falling apart, a friend's betrayal, a dream that didn't work out. Each time you tried to control what was slipping away. You tried to hold on tighter, thinking love, loyalty, or effort would fix it. But the harder you held, the more it hurt. That's the trap of attachment. It teaches you to fight reality instead of flowing with it. The art of emotional detachment is about finding balance between the heart and the mind. It's the ability to stand in the storm without being carried away by it, to feel pain yet remain peaceful, to be present yet not possessed. When you master detachment, life doesn't lose color, it gains clarity. You begin to see things as they are, not as your emotions want them to be. You stop chasing closure from others and start creating it within yourself. You stop forcing outcomes and start aligning with what's meant for you. You stop reacting and start responding. And this is where real power begins. Because detachment is not coldness, it's control. It's the inner calm that allows you to think clearly, love wisely, and act intentionally. It's what turns chaos into clarity, confusion into confidence, and heartbreak into growth. In this audiobook, you'll learn how to cultivate that balance, how to detach without disconnecting, how to feel deeply without drowning, and how to build an emotional foundation so strong that no rejection, failure, or loss can shake it. We'll explore the hidden cost of emotional reactivity and how to reclaim your peace. We'll uncover how your brain sabotages you and how to outsmart it. You'll learn practical tools like the stop method, reframing techniques, and emotional alchemy. And most importantly, you'll learn how to turn your emotions into your greatest strength instead of your biggest weakness. By the end of this journey, you'll no longer chase peace, you'll embody it. You'll no longer need to escape emotions, you'll understand them. You'll no longer fear detachment, you'll realize it's love in its purest form. Love without possession. Care without control. Presence without pressure. This is the art of emotional detachment without becoming cold. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The hidden cost of reactivity. We all like to believe we're in control, that our choices are deliberate, that our emotions are rational. But most of the time, they aren't. We're reacting, not responding. Reactivity is the invisible thief of peace. It doesn't announce itself loudly. It slips in quietly, through moments that seem harmless. A single text left on seen, a colleague's tone, a friend's delayed reply. And suddenly, you're no longer in the present. You're in a storm of overthinking. You check your phone again. You replay the scene again. You build entire stories out of silence. And that's how reactivity works. It convinces you that every little thing must mean something about you. One small spark of emotion can burn through hours of calm. A misunderstanding turns into an argument. An opinion turns into an attack. A minor inconvenience becomes a full emotional spiral. And before you realize it, your day, your focus, and your energy are gone. Let's take a simple story. You're at work. You've put in effort, stayed late, handled the tough parts of the project. Then, in a meeting, your manager praises someone else, not you. You smile politely, but inside something shifts. A tightness in your chest. A quiet voice whispering, "Do they even notice what I do?" By the time you're home, you're replaying it. You start scrolling, distracting, rationalizing, but deep down, you're hurt not because they didn't praise you, but because you tied your peace to their approval. That's emotional reactivity, your inner world being ruled by external validation. Now imagine a relationship. You text someone you care about, and hours go by with no response. Your brain begins its theater. They're ignoring me. Did I say something wrong? They've lost interest. In minutes, you've gone from calm to chaos. Not because of reality, but because of the story your emotions created. This is what emotional attachment without awareness looks like. It turns every silence into a wound, every delay into rejection. And the deeper the attachment, the stronger the reaction. Every time you react impulsively, you give away your power. You let someone else's words or behavior dictate your state of mind. And slowly, without realizing it, you become emotionally outsourced your peace depending on people who might not even care. We often think emotions are uncontrollable, but the truth is, reactivity is a habit. Each time you explode, argue, or withdraw in silence, your brain learns, this is how we respond to discomfort. Next time, it reacts even faster. Every reaction trains your brain to lose control faster next time. Over time, your nervous system starts living in survival mode. You walk into situations already tense. You read between lines that don't exist. You prepare for rejection that hasn't happened. You become addicted to emotional alertness, scanning for threats, even in safe places. And this is where peace dies, not in the big moments, but in the small, constant reactions that drain you drop by drop. There's a cost to this kind of living. You lose focus at work because your mind is busy defending your ego. You lose connection in relationships because you listen to argue, not to understand. You lose authenticity because you start performing to protect your feelings. Reactivity makes you fragile. Every opinion feels personal. Every disagreement feels dangerous. Every mistake feels like a collapse of identity. Because you're no longer living from truth, you're living from reaction. And here's the cruel irony. Reactive people think they're defending themselves, but they're really exposing their weakest point, their inability to stay centered. You can always recognize someone trapped in reactivity. Their peace depends on others. Their words carry tension. Their silence is loud with overthinking. They say things they don't mean and regret it hours later. They apologize for emotions they didn't understand, and slowly they lose trust in themselves because they can't predict their own reactions anymore. Self-respect erodes in moments like that. You begin to fear your own emotions because they keep hijacking your decisions. Maybe you've experienced this too. You told yourself you wouldn't argue, but you did. You promised yourself you'd stay calm, but you didn't. You said you'd walk away, but you couldn't. That helplessness isn't weakness, it's conditioning. Your brain learned to equate reaction with relief. But that relief is temporary, and the regret that follows lasts longer. Now imagine the opposite. You get criticized, but you pause. You breathe. You analyze the truth behind the words. You respond calmly. And you walk away with your dignity intact. That's what emotional detachment feels like. Not suppression, sovereignty. Reactivity costs you time, energy, relationships, and self-trust. It keeps you emotionally broke, always spending your peace to buy back control. But once you see it clearly, you can begin to break the cycle. From this point forward, every emotional reaction you notice becomes an invitation to pause, to breathe, to choose differently. Because every reaction trains your brain, but so does every pause. And the more you pause, the more power you reclaim. The moment you stop reacting, you start mastering. You stop being controlled by emotion and start directing it. That's when emotional detachment begins to take root, not as coldness, but as clarity. And soon, you'll realize your calm isn't silence. It's self-respect. Every reaction trains your brain to lose control faster next time. But every moment of awareness trains it to find peace faster next time. Hont. Chapter 2. Why your brain sabotages you. You don't lose control because you're weak. You lose control because your brain was built for survival, not peace. And that ancient programming still runs your modern life. Every time you overthink, panic, or react without thinking, you're not broken. You're just following an old survival script. A script that was once useful, but now quietly destroys your emotional balance. Here's how it happens. When something threatens you, even emotionally, your brain's alarm system, the amygdala, takes over. It doesn't wait. It doesn't think. It reacts. In just 12 milliseconds, your amygdala fires a signal through your body. Your heartbeat quickens, your breathing shortens, your muscles tighten. Your body prepares for a fight that doesn't exist. And by the time your logical brain, the prefrontal cortex, wakes up, 500 milliseconds have already passed. The reaction is already happening. You said what you shouldn't have said. You slammed the door. You texted back out of anger. You defended yourself before even understanding the situation. The body reacted before the mind could respond. This is what psychologists call an amygdala hijack. It means your emotional brain temporarily takes your logic hostage, and in those few seconds, peace disappears. Now imagine this happening multiple times a day. Each notification, each criticism, each moment of uncertainty. Your brain stays in low-level survival mode, always scanning for danger, even in normal situations. That's why emotional detachment feels so hard at first. You're not fighting people, you're fighting your own biology. Think about it. Why does a simple text message make your stomach twist? Why does silence feel threatening? Why does being misunderstood feel like an attack? Because your brain doesn't know the difference between rejection and danger. It's wired to keep you safe, not emotionally stable. This system was built for a world of predators and physical threats, but now the threats are invisible. An email from your boss, a partner's tone, a social media comment. Each of these triggers the same chemical storm as being chased by a wild animal. You scroll through the news or social media, and your amygdala lights up again, every headline, every conflict, every argument. You're feeding your fear center without realizing it. The brain begins to normalize stress. You start mistaking anxiety for alertness, tension for motivation, and before long your body forgets what calm even feels like. Here's the cruel truth. Your emotional reactions aren't personal, they're neurological. And until you understand that, you'll keep blaming yourself for being too sensitive, too emotional, or too reactive. But the brain isn't your enemy. It's just outdated. It needs retraining, not rejection. To detach emotionally, you must first create space between trigger and reaction. That's the gap where awareness lives. That's the place where your power begins. Every moment you pause, you interrupt the amygdala's instant takeover. You give the prefrontal cortex, your logical brain, time to step in, to assess, to breathe, to respond. And in that pause, you move from instinct to intelligence. Let's take a common scenario. Someone criticizes you. Your heart spikes, your jaw tightens, your mind races to defend. That's the amygdala firing. But if you breathe just once, you buy half a second of control. Half a second for your prefrontal cortex to say, wait, what's really happening here? That half second is the difference between peace and regret, between wisdom and reaction, between emotional detachment and emotional chaos. But here's where the brain sabotages you again. It loves patterns. Every time you react emotionally, your neurons connect faster. The brain rewards that pathway with dopamine. It tells you, good job, you survived. Even if all you did was argue, scroll, or overthink. So now emotional reactivity feels good because your brain has mistaken it for safety. That's why staying calm feels uncomfortable at first. Your brain doesn't interpret silence as peace, it interprets it as uncertainty. And uncertainty feels unsafe. To master emotional detachment, you must teach your brain that calm is not danger, it's safety. That not reacting doesn't mean losing, it means leading. Your goal is not to kill emotion, but to balance biology with awareness. To remind your mind, I'm not in danger, I'm just uncomfortable. Because the truth is, discomfort won't kill you. Overreaction will. The more you practice emotional awareness, the more your brain rewires itself. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reshape itself, proves that calm can become your new default. It takes time, repetition, and conscious choice. At first, it feels mechanical, like forcing yourself to stay silent when you want to speak. Then it becomes natural, like choosing stillness because you value peace. And eventually it becomes automatic. Your body feels calm even when the world around you doesn't. That's when you realize emotional detachment is not suppression, it's mastery over the ancient instincts that once ruled you. So, next time you feel triggered, remember, you're not fighting the moment, you're rewiring your brain. Every pause is progress. Every deep breath is training. Every act of restraint is a message to your nervous system. We're safe now. Between the trigger and your reaction, there is a gap. In that gap lies your power. And in that power lies your peace. Chapter 3. The 4 Levels of Emotional Mastery. Emotional mastery isn't a single breakthrough. It's a climb, a slow, conscious journey through layers of awareness. You don't wake up peaceful one morning. You build peace. One reaction at a time. There are 4 levels on this path. 4 phases the mind moves through as it learns to respond instead of react. Each one reveals something about who you've been and who you're becoming. Let's begin with the first. Level 1, unconscious reactivity. This is where most people live without realizing it. Life feels like it's happening to you. You wake up already behind, already tense, already bracing for impact. Every message, tone, and gesture becomes personal. You don't choose emotions, they choose you. In this stage, you justify your reactions. You say things like, "That's just how I am," or "They made me angry." You don't see that you're giving away your power with every outburst. You believe peace depends on how others treat you, so you keep trying to control the outside world to fix your inside. This level is exhausting. It keeps you stuck in cycles of emotional debt, spending your energy where it never returns. The smallest trigger can ruin your whole day because your emotions are driving the car and you're just a passenger. Ask yourself, when was the last time I acted like this? Level 2. Conscious reactivity. This is where awareness begins. You still react, but now you notice it. You catch yourself mid-argument and think, why am I doing this again? You hear your tone shift. You feel your heartbeat rise, and a quiet voice inside whispers, stop. But you don't always stop. Because awareness doesn't erase habits, it just shines light on them. You start recognizing patterns. How you shut down when criticized. How you chase validation when ignored. How you replay pain to feel seen. This level can feel frustrating, because now you know better, but you can't yet do better. It's like watching yourself drown while knowing how to swim. But don't mistake awareness for failure. It's the hardest and most important step. Ask yourself, when was the last time I acted like this? Level 3, conscious response. This is where transformation begins. You still feel emotions deeply, but you pause before reacting. You take a breath. You analyze instead of assuming. You choose words carefully, not to suppress emotion, but to honor it without harming anyone. In this stage, you learn that calm is not weakness, it's precision. You start valuing peace over being right. You stop defending your ego and start protecting your energy. People may call you distant. They might say you've changed. But deep down, you know you're not colder, you're clearer. You no longer fight every battle. You let silence do the explaining. You let time do the teaching. You begin to realize that most things don't need your reaction. They need your absence. Ask yourself, when was the last time I acted like this? Level 4. Emotional alchemy. This is the summit, the place where emotions no longer control you, they serve you. You don't suppress anger, you channel it into action. You don't avoid sadness, you use it to connect and grow. You don't fear fear, you use it to prepare and focus. You start transforming emotions into energy, anger into drive, pain into wisdom, loss into clarity. You no longer seek peace, you radiate it. Because peace isn't the absence of emotion, it's the mastery of it. At this level, you understand that emotions are messengers, not masters. They tell you where your attention is needed, not where your value lies. You meet them, thank them, and release them. You no longer drown in feelings, you surf them. Ask yourself, when was the last time I acted like this? Reaching this level doesn't mean you never feel triggered again. It means you recover faster. You forgive quicker. You return to calm sooner. Because mastery isn't perfection, it's awareness repeated until it becomes instinct. Every level teaches you something sacred. From the chaos of reaction, you learn awareness. From the awareness of reaction, you learn control. From control, you learn understanding. And from understanding, you find freedom. Most people never reach level 4, not because they can't, but because they mistake emotions for identity. They think, I am angry instead of I feel anger. They say I'm broken instead of I'm healing. They fuse who they are with what they feel. But you are not your emotions. You are the space in which they rise and fall. When you realize that, you stop drowning in waves because you finally remember. You are the ocean. Your goal is progress, not perfection. Each level is an upgrade. And every moment you choose awareness over reaction, you move one step closer to emotional freedom. Chapter 4. The Stop Method. There's a moment, a fraction of a second between what happens to you and how you react. That moment decides everything. Your peace, your relationships, your power. Most people never notice it. They move straight from trigger to reaction, from emotion to explosion. They speak before they think, move before they breathe, decide before they understand. And then they spend hours, sometimes days, cleaning up what those few seconds destroyed. That's why emotional detachment begins with one practice, the power to pause. There's a simple method that turns that pause into mastery. It's called the Stop Method. 4 letters that can change how you respond to life. stop. T, take a breath. O, observe. P, proceed. Let's break it down. S, stop. The very first step sounds simple, but it's everything. When emotion rises, stop moving. Stop typing that message, stop speaking, stop explaining yourself. Because the first action that follows emotion is usually the one you'll regret. The moment you stop, you create space, a sacred pause where control begins to return. That's your separation from the chaos. You're telling your brain, we're safe, we don't need to fight. Imagine you're in an argument. Your partner says something sharp, something unfair. Your mind immediately floods with comebacks, memories, proofs. You feel the urge to defend, to retaliate, to win. But instead, you stop. Even if it's just for 2 seconds. That pause is not weakness, it's power, because silence can disarm more conflict than shouting ever will. T, take a breath. Now that you've stopped, your body needs to catch up. Emotion begins in the body before it reaches the mind. So to calm the mind, you must first calm the body. Inhale for 4 seconds. Hold for 4. Exhale for 6. Repeat 3 times. Feel your heartbeat slowing down. Feel the heat in your chest fading. You're not escaping emotion, you're regulating it. Breathing tells your nervous system, there is no danger here. And when the body feels safe, the mind starts thinking clearly again. O, observe. Now that you've calmed your body, you can see the truth. Observe what's happening both outside and inside. Ask yourself, what's real here, and what's just my assumption? What am I feeling? Anger, hurt, fear, or disappointment? Is this moment truly threatening or just uncomfortable? Observation transforms emotion into data. It gives you perspective. You begin to notice how often your pain isn't about the present, it's about the past trying to protect you. Let's say a coworker criticizes your work. You feel defensive, but when you observe, you realize it's not about their words, it's about an old wound, maybe from childhood, when being wrong meant being unloved. Observation brings compassion. You start responding to yourself with understanding instead of judgment. P, proceed. Now comes the conscious choice. Proceed not with emotion, but with intention. Ask, what action serves me long term? Maybe that means speaking calmly. Maybe that means walking away. Maybe it means saying nothing at all. Detachment doesn't mean you stop engaging. It means you start engaging with clarity. You choose what deserves your energy and what deserves your silence. Let's test this in real life. Example 1. Argument. Your partner raises their voice. You want to raise yours back. You stop. You pause. You breathe. You observe that they're not attacking, they're overwhelmed. You proceed by softening your tone instead of matching theirs. And suddenly, the storm loses its power. Example 2. Workplace conflict. A colleague criticizes your idea in front of others. Your instinct is to defend. But you stop. You breathe. You observe that they might be projecting insecurity, not truth. You proceed by responding with calm logic, not emotion. And just like that, you stay respected, not reactive. Example 3. Stress or anxiety. You feel pressure, deadlines closing in, people demanding too much. You stop your rush. You take a slow breath. You observe your thoughts. I'm overwhelmed because I'm trying to do everything perfectly. You proceed by focusing on one thing at a time and peace returns. The stop method is simple, but it's not easy, because emotion demands speed and awareness demands slowness. To practice it is to rebel against your instincts. But the more you use it, the more natural it becomes. Your mind starts recognizing the early signs of reactivity, the tension, the racing pulse, the tightening chest, and it reminds you, pause. You start noticing that silence doesn't mean defeat, it means direction. Every pause builds emotional muscle. Every breath resets your nerve system. Every observation brings wisdom, and every calm response strengthens self-respect. Remember this truth. The power to pause is the power to choose, and the power to choose is the foundation of emotional freedom. Because you can't control the world, but you can always control your next moment. And that is where detachment truly begins. Chapter 5. Advanced Techniques. Emotional control isn't the end goal. It's just the doorway. Once you've learned how to pause, breathe, and respond, the real work begins: optimization. Control keeps you from reacting, but optimization transforms the emotion itself. It's about taking what once broke you and turning it into strength. Let's explore the advanced tools that move you from survival to mastery. 1. Cognitive reframing, the power of perspective. Every emotion you feel is tied to a story. Something happens, and you give it meaning. That meaning becomes emotion. Change the story, and you change how it feels. This is the art of reframing. When something goes wrong, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this teaching me?" That simple question shifts your brain from emotional suffering to emotional learning. Imagine you didn't get the job you wanted. You could say, "I failed." Or you could say, "This experience is preparing me for the role I'm meant for." Same event, different lens, different emotion. Your reality isn't shaped by what happens, it's shaped by how you interpret what happens. Try this simple exercise. Every time something negative occurs, write down 3 alternative explanations. If a friend stops talking to you, maybe they're overwhelmed, not indifferent. If you make a mistake, maybe it's feedback, not failure. If plans fall apart, maybe life's redirecting you towards something better. You can't control outcomes, but you can always control outlooks. And that's where freedom begins. 2. Emotional labeling. Name it to tame it. Most people don't feel emotions, they drown in them, because they never stop to name what they're feeling. Labeling an emotion moves it from chaos to clarity. The moment you say, "I feel angry," you shift activity from your amygdala to your prefrontal cortex, from raw reaction to rational awareness. There's science behind this. Studies show that simply labeling an emotion reduces its intensity. Next time you're overwhelmed, pause and identify: is this sadness or disappointment? Is it anger or frustration? Is it anxiety or anticipation? Precision brings power. When you name it, you separate you from it. You stop saying, "I am anxious," and start saying, "I feel anxiety." That small change creates emotional distance, and that distance is control. 3. Somatic regulation. Calming the body, calming the mind. You can't think clearly in a body that feels unsafe. That's why emotional mastery isn't just mental, it's physical. When emotions rise, your nervous system follows. Your heart races, your breath shortens, your muscles tense. Your brain mistakes emotional tension for danger. To regulate emotion, you must regulate physiology. Start with box breathing. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4. Exhale for 4. Hold for 4 again. Repeat 4 times. It's simple, but it sends a powerful message. We are safe now. You can also use progressive muscle relaxation. Tense each muscle group for 5 seconds, then release. Feel the tension leaving your body like a wave receding from the shore. Or try cold exposure. A cold shower, even for 60 seconds, resets your stress response and trains your body to stay calm under discomfort. When you teach your body to relax under pressure, your emotions begin to follow. 4. Timeline reframing, expanding perspective. In the heat of emotion, everything feels permanent. But emotion lies, it exaggerates the now and forgets the later. When something upsets you, ask, "How will this feel in 1 hour? In 1 day? In 1 week?" Time shrinks emotional intensity, and perspective dissolves panic. Think back to something that once broke you. The pain felt endless then, didn't it? And yet you survived. You healed. You grew. You barely think of it now. That's proof that what feels unbearable today might become invisible tomorrow. So, whenever emotion overwhelms you, zoom out, expand the frame, see the bigger picture. Emotional detachment is often just emotional perspective. 5. Energy management, the foundation of stability. You can't master emotions if your body is running on empty. Fatigue, dehydration, poor sleep all mimic emotional instability. Sometimes you're not angry, you're just tired. You're not anxious, you're just overcaffeinated. You're not unmotivated, you're just undernourished. Your emotional state is biological, so take care of the machine that carries your mind. Drink water, eat real food, sleep 7 to 9 hours, limit stimulants that amplify stress. Move your body daily not to look better, but to feel better. Energy is emotional currency. Spend it wisely. Because when your body feels stable, your mind feels safe. These techniques may sound simple, but their power is cumulative. They turn your mind into an ally instead of an adversary. Cognitive reframing teaches you that perspective is peace. Emotional labeling reminds you that awareness is control. Somatic regulation keeps your body in alignment with calm. Timeline reframing dissolves panic into patience. And energy management builds the foundation that keeps all of it stable. This is what emotional mastery looks like in motion, not suppression, but transformation. You stop fighting your emotions and start using them as tools for growth. Because the truth is, emotions aren't enemies to overcome. They're signals to understand. And when you learn to translate them, you stop being reactive and start becoming resilient. You can't think clearly in a body that feels unsafe. So make safety physical, mental, and emotional your first discipline. That's how detachment stops being theory and becomes identity. Chapter 6. Building the baseline. You can't build emotional control in the middle of chaos. You build it in the quiet moments, in the routines, choices, and small disciplines that shape your nervous system every single day. Think of emotional mastery like a muscle. It doesn't grow during the argument, the rejection, or the stress. It grows during the recovery when you rest, reflect, and rebuild. Your reactions are only as stable as your foundation, and that foundation is built through daily habits that nourish your body, mind, and spirit and nuanced seeds. Let's begin where balance begins with sleep. Sleep, the reset button for your emotions. You can't detach when you're exhausted, because sleep deprivation turns your amygdala, your emotional alarm system, hyperactive. It magnifies fear, amplifies stress, and shrinks your patience. 7 to 9 hours isn't luxury, it's maintenance. Sleep is where your brain rewires, repairs, and releases emotional residue. Without it, you're fighting life half-charged. Build a sleep routine that protects peace. Dim the lights an hour before bed. Put your phone away. The blue light tricks your brain into thinking it's daytime. Make your room cool, dark, and quiet. Don't scroll through chaos before entering rest, because the way you fall asleep decides the quality of your calm tomorrow. Nutrition fuel for emotional regulation. Your brain isn't powered by motivation, it's powered by chemistry. And that chemistry comes from what you eat. Each meal is an emotional decision disguised as a nutritional one. Too much sugar, too much caffeine, and your mood becomes a roller coaster, sharp highs followed by deep crashes. Protein balances neurotransmitters. Omega-3 fats stabilize mood. Hydration clears brain fog. Real food fuels real focus. You can't meditate your way out of a biological imbalance. Peace is physical before it becomes psychological. Eat like someone who values their clarity. Exercise movement as medicine. You don't need a gym membership to master emotion. You just need movement. Every step, every stretch, every deep breath signals your body, I'm safe, I'm strong, I can handle this. Cardio releases tension. Strength training builds resilience. Even a daily walk clears emotional static. Exercise doesn't just change your body, it rewires your stress response. It lowers cortisol and raises serotonin, creating emotional balance that no quote or affirmation can replace. You can't stay calm in stillness if your body never moves. Cognitive flexibility, mental strength through openness. Emotional rigidity comes from mental narrowness. When you only see one perspective, every disagreement feels like an attack. Cognitive flexibility is the ability to hold multiple truths at once, to see that someone can love you and still hurt you, that a situation can be painful and still necessary, that you can be healing and still have bad days. Read books that challenge your beliefs. Listen to people you disagree with. Step outside your comfort zone. Growth begins at the edges of understanding. Because a flexible mind doesn't break when life bends it. Meaning the emotional compass. Detachment without purpose becomes emptiness. You need meaning, a sense of direction that anchors your emotions. Ask yourself, what am I really living for? What values guide my choices? What makes my struggle worth it? When life has meaning, small irritations lose power. You stop getting lost in petty arguments because you're too focused on what actually matters. Meaning turns emotional noise into emotional navigation. Environment, your silent influence. Your surroundings are shaping your emotional health constantly. The people you talk to, the music you listen to, the spaces you occupy. If you live in chaos, you'll think in chaos. If you surround yourself with growth, you'll expand. Audit your environment. Does it feed your peace or drain it? Are your relationships based on energy exchange or energy extraction? Sometimes detachment isn't spiritual, it's practical. You can't heal in an environment that keeps triggering your wounds. Choose calm surroundings like you'd choose clean air. They both decide how deeply you breathe. Strategic stress, strengthening your emotional armor. Avoiding all discomfort makes you weaker. Controlled discomfort makes you stronger. That's what strategic stress is about, exposing yourself intentionally to small doses of challenge, so your nervous system learns resilience. Cold showers. Difficult workouts. Uncomfortable conversations. Meditation when your mind resists it. Each small challenge tells your brain, I can handle this. And over time, the things that once broke you barely move you. The goal isn't to avoid stress, it's to outgrow it. Recovery, the art of returning to balance. You can't stay emotionally sharp if you never unplug. Schedule recovery like it's a ritual. Once a week, step away from noise, no screens, no notifications, no pressure. Go for a walk in nature. Sit in silence. Reflect. Let your nervous system reset. Recovery is where growth integrates. It's not laziness, it's leadership of your inner world. When you combine all these habits, sleep, nutrition, movement, flexibility, meaning, environment, stress, and recovery, you build what's called a baseline. It's your emotional home, your default state, the place you return to when life throws you off balance. Most people try to master emotions on unstable ground. They meditate once, read one book, or repeat affirmations while running on caffeine and 4 hours of sleep. That's not mastery, that's maintenance of chaos. True mastery begins with foundation, because strong emotions require strong foundations. Build your baseline like a fortress, brick by brick, habit by habit, day by day, so that when storms come, and they will, you don't crumble, you recalibrate. And that's when detachment becomes natural, not forced, not performed, but embodied. Strong emotions require strong foundations. Chapter 7. Your brain on mastery. You don't become emotionally strong by pretending to be calm. You become strong because your brain changes. Because every time you choose awareness over reaction, you're literally rewiring your mind. Emotional mastery isn't mystical, it's biological. Your peace has a physical address inside your brain. Let's look inside. Your emotions begin in the limbic system, the amygdala, hippocampus, and related structures that decide what feels safe or dangerous. When you're reactive, the amygdala runs the show. It screams, threat, attack, defend. It floods your body with adrenaline and cortisol. That's why you feel hot, shaky, or impulsive when angry. But there's another region, the prefrontal cortex, the seat of logic, planning, empathy, and control. It's slower, quieter, more deliberate. It doesn't shout, it thinks. It says, pause. Let's analyze. Let's respond, not react. When you start practicing awareness, breathing, reframing, you're strengthening that prefrontal cortex like a muscle. And the stronger it gets, the more it calms the amygdala before chaos begins. This is called neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to change its structure through repetition. Every calm response rewires the circuit. Every pause lays down a new neural pathway. You are literally training your brain to choose peace faster each time. Over weeks and months of consistent practice, the amygdala, your fear center, actually shrinks. And the prefrontal cortex, your center of control, thickens. MRI scans have shown this in monks, meditators, and emotionally aware individuals. Peace becomes less of a practice and more of a personality. That's what mastery looks like, not emotional numbness, but neurological evolution. Think about what happens when you first start exercising. At first, every movement feels awkward. Your muscles shake, your breathing feels heavy, and progress is invisible. But over time, repetition makes strength natural. Your body adapts. The same happens with your emotional system. At first, it feels forced to stay calm. You'll forget to pause. You'll overreact again. You'll regret, reflect, and repeat. But every repetition counts. Every conscious response adds one more fiber of control to your mind. Every breath becomes a quiet revolution inside your neural map. In 8 to 12 weeks, your brain begins to change physically. Connections strengthen between your emotional and logical centers. The gap between trigger and response widens. You gain seconds, sometimes minutes, before the old patterns even rise. That's the gap where mastery lives. There's another layer: mirror neurons. These are the brain's empathy circuits. They reflect the emotions of people around you. That's why anxiety spreads in a room, why one angry person can change the entire mood. But it also works the other way. When you stay calm, others begin to mirror your calm. Your stability regulates their nervous system too. You become the emotional thermostat, not the thermometer. That's the beauty of mastery. You don't just heal yourself, you influence everyone around you, because presence is contagious. Your brain learns from patterns. So the more you surround yourself with peace, the more your neural wiring reflects it. This is why environment matters so much. Spend time with people who regulate, not react, who think deeply, not loudly. Your neurons will begin to copy their rhythm. You become what your nervous system repeatedly experiences. Now here's the truth no one tells you. Mastery doesn't make you emotionless. It makes you emotionally intelligent. You still feel everything, but nothing owns you. You can feel sadness without sinking, anger without attacking, fear without freezing. Your emotions become instruments, not interruptions. You play them. They no longer play you. And when your brain reaches this level of balance, detachment becomes effortless. Not because you avoid emotions, but because your nervous system knows how to flow through them. Your calm no longer feels like suppression. It feels like strength. That's when you notice something profound. Life doesn't get easier. You just stop being thrown by it. The chaos remains, but you've built an inner stillness that no storm can move. This is not fake peace, it's earned peace, a peace carved into your biology through patience, awareness, and repetition. So when people say you've changed, they're right. You have. Your brain has learned a new way of being. It doesn't crave chaos anymore. It craves clarity. And the more you practice, the more automatic it becomes, because mastery isn't about forcing calm, it's about becoming calm. You're not pretending to be peaceful. You're becoming peace itself. You're not pretending to be detached. You're becoming free. You're not pretending to be strong. You're becoming who your nervous system was always meant to be: centered, clear, and conscious. You're not pretending to be calm. You're becoming calm. Chapter 8: Performing Under Pressure. It's easy to be calm when life is quiet, when no one is testing you, when the world is gentle and predictable. But that's not mastery, that's comfort. Real mastery begins when pressure rises, when you're under the spotlight, when the outcome matters, when emotions start to shake your composure and your mind wants to surrender to panic. Pressure reveals the truth about your training. It exposes how much control you've built or how much you've borrowed. In moments of stress, your brain will always fall to the level of your practice, not your potential, not your plans, your practice. That's why the emotionally detached, the truly grounded, perform best under pressure, because they've learned that pressure isn't the enemy, it's the test. Most people see pressure as a threat, but the truth is, pressure is neutral. It's neither good nor bad, it's just energy. What makes it painful is the story you attach to it. The stakes are too high. What if I fail? What will they think of me? It's not the event that stresses you, it's your interpretation of it. Reframing pressure begins with a single mindset shift. The event is neutral, the story creates the stress. Two people can face the same situation. One crumbles, the other conquers. The difference isn't talent. It's meaning. To the untrained mind, pressure equals danger. To the trained mind, pressure equals opportunity. Because emotion is energy, and under pressure you get more of it. The goal is not to suppress it, but to channel it. Here's how. First, breathe before you believe. When adrenaline floods your body, it makes the problem feel bigger. Your breath is your anchor. Slow, deep inhales tell your brain, we're safe, we can think. And as your physiology steadies, your perspective widens. Second, focus on one action, not the outcome. When the pressure's on, your mind races toward what could go wrong. You start predicting failure before it even happens. But the key is simplicity. Focus on the next small step you can control. Whether it's speaking your line, writing the sentence, or taking the next shot, and bring your mind to what's now, not what's next. Because clarity lives in presence. Third label. What you feel. Is it fear, or is it excitement disguised as fear? The body reacts the same way to both. Labeling reclaims the meaning. Say to yourself, I'm not nervous, I'm alert. I'm not afraid, I'm ready. That linguistic shift changes chemistry. You transform anxiety into activation. Think of athletes, performers, leaders. They all feel pressure, but they train their nervous system to see it as signal, not threat. Their calm under fire isn't luck, it's conditioning. They've learned the art of stress inoculation, deliberately putting themselves in controlled discomfort so that chaos feels familiar. Cold showers, public speaking, early mornings, tight deadlines, small discomforts that harden the mind for the big ones. Every time you face pressure on purpose, you teach your brain, this sensation isn't danger, it's data. And once the brain stops fearing stress, stress becomes fuel. Emotional detachment under pressure is not about feeling nothing. It's about feeling everything without being consumed. The detached mind knows, I can be scared and still act. I can be hurt and still think. I can be uncertain and still move. That's the paradox of mastery. Courage doesn't eliminate fear, it coexists with it. You don't wait to stop feeling nervous to act. You act while feeling nervous, calmly, intentionally, fully present. That's what separates amateurs from masters. Masters operate even when the emotion is loud, because they've trained the gap between stimulus and response. They've built the muscle of pause so strong that even in chaos, they still choose awareness. To truly perform under pressure, you must adopt a process mindset. Focus on the method, not the result. The outcome is just noise, but the process is power. Ask yourself, what's the next right move? What's the one decision that aligns with my values? What would the calm version of me do right now? Detach from outcome, and excellence follows naturally. After each intense situation, practice after-action reflection. Not self-criticism, self-analysis. Ask, what went well? What can improve? What did I feel? How did I respond? This reflection builds self-trust, so the next time, your calm arrives quicker. Because emotional detachment isn't about staying untouched, it's about staying unbroken. It's about looking pressure in the eyes and saying, I'm not here to escape you, I'm here to grow through you. Pressure doesn't crush the calm ones, it refines them, it shows them who they've become. So the next time life turns up the heat, remember this truth. Pressure is not punishment, it's preparation. And when you learn to perform under it, you stop running from hard moments and start realizing they were never meant to break you. They were meant to build you. Pressure is a privilege. It means you're in a moment that matters. Chapter 9, Turning Pain into Power. Pain changes people. It either breaks them or builds them. But what decides the outcome isn't the pain itself. It's what you do with it. Every emotion carries energy. Anger, fear, sadness, frustration. They're not problems to eliminate. They're forces waiting to be redirected. Emotional detachment doesn't mean ignoring these feelings. It means understanding their purpose and learning how to convert them into something useful. Because the truth is, the emotions you resist the most often contain the lessons you need the most. Let's start with anger. Anger is energy, raw, hot, explosive. It tells you that something isn't right, that a boundary has been crossed, that your value has been disrespected, that your power has been ignored. Most people either suppress it, pretending they're fine while burning inside, or they unleash it, destroying what they were trying to protect. But there's a third way. Channel it. Anger, when directed, becomes assertiveness. It becomes clarity. It becomes movement. Every major act of change, personal or global, began with someone saying, enough. Use anger as a signal, not a weapon. Ask yourself, what value of mine was violated? What truth am I defending? Then express it with calm confidence, not chaos. The fire that once consumed you can become the flame that guides you. Next, fear. Fear is one of the most misunderstood emotions. It's not the enemy, it's the messenger. It says, pay attention. It says, this matters. It says, you're standing at the edge of growth. Fear means you care. You only fear losing what you value. Most people run from fear, but avoidance feeds anxiety. It tells the brain, this is danger. And every time you avoid, the fear grows stronger. Instead, approach it with curiosity. Ask, what is this fear protecting me from? Is it real or imagined? Then take one small action through it. Because courage is not the absence of fear, it's the decision to move anyway. Each time you do, your brain learns, I survived. I'm stronger than I thought. and the fear that once froze you becomes the focus that sharpens you. Now sadness. Sadness isn't weakness. It's proof that you've loved deeply. It shows that something mattered to you, someone, something, some dream. Most people run from sadness because it feels heavy. But sadness isn't here to punish you. It's here to cleanse you. It softens the ego, opens compassion, and clears emotional clutter. When you stop resisting sadness, it starts revealing what truly matters. It teaches you empathy, humility, and patience. So instead of asking, "When will this end?" ask, "What is this showing me about what I value?" Because sadness doesn't mean you've lost, it means you've cared. And care is not a weakness, it's humanity. Let it flow. Cry if you must. Release what you cannot hold. Because suppressed sadness becomes silent anger, but expressed sadness becomes quiet strength. Then there's frustration. Frustration is the emotional alarm that tells you something isn't working. It's not failure, it's feedback. It means your system, your process, or your pattern needs adjustment. Instead of exploding or quitting, observe it. Ask, what expectation did I have that reality isn't meeting? What small change could improve this? Frustration is the birthplace of innovation. Every invention, every improvement, every success started as someone being frustrated with how things were. Use it to refine, not to rage. Now you begin to see every emotion you feared was never the enemy. It was information. It was guidance. It was energy asking for direction. Anger becomes drive. Fear becomes focus. Sadness becomes depth. Frustration becomes design. When you start transmuting emotions instead of resisting them, you become emotionally alchemical, turning pain into power, reaction into response, and chaos into creation. Think of your emotions as fire. In the wrong hands, it burns. In the right hands, it builds. You can use that same flame to destroy or to forge. Emotional detachment is not putting out the fire. It's learning to control its direction. So, next time you feel something intense, don't rush to escape it. Sit with it. Listen to it. Translate it. Ask, what is this energy trying to tell me? And then use it. Because emotions are energy. You either waste it or weaponize it. You either drown in it or rise with it. The difference isn't what you feel, it's what you do with what you feel. Pain doesn't have to end you. It can reintroduce you to your power. And once you understand that truth, you stop fearing your emotions because you finally realize they were never here to control you. They were here to awaken you. Emotions are energy. You either waste it or weaponize it. Chapter 10: Emotional Intelligence in Relationships. Emotional mastery means little if it disappears the moment someone touches your heart. Because love, friendship, and connection, they're where your growth is tested the most. It's easy to be detached in solitude. It's much harder to stay balanced in intimacy. Relationships don't break from lack of emotion. They break from lack of awareness. You can love someone deeply, but if you don't understand your own emotions and theirs, that love turns into confusion, conflict, and control. Emotional intelligence is the bridge between care and chaos. It allows you to connect without losing yourself. The first rule: not every emotion requires a reaction. When someone you love gets angry, anxious, or distant, your instinct may be to fix, to defend, or to take it personally. But detachment teaches you to pause, to see emotion as expression, not as attack. Sometimes the other person isn't fighting you. They're fighting their own pain through you, their silence, their irritation, their withdrawal. It's often not rejection. It's reflection of their own inner storm. Your job isn't to absorb it. Your job is to understand it without losing your center. This is empathy, not enmeshment. Empathy without absorption means you can feel with someone without drowning in their emotion. You can hold space for their sadness without making it your responsibility to fix it. When they cry, you listen. When they vent, you don't compete. When they're quiet, you don't assume. You learn to see beyond words, to feel what they're feeling without turning it into a story about you. This kind of listening is rare. It's not waiting for your turn to speak. It's holding space with presence. Because sometimes, the most healing thing you can do is to understand without interrupting. Emotional intelligence also means recognizing triggers in both people, yours and theirs. You begin to notice when conversations shift from logic to defense, when tone hardens, when old wounds start speaking through current words. Instead of matching their reaction, you slow yours. You take responsibility for your part, but not for their projection. You stay grounded in observation, not accusation. Because awareness breaks cycles that argument can't. In emotionally healthy relationships, you stop trying to win arguments and start trying to understand perspectives. You replace "you always" with "I feel." You replace blame with clarity. You replace defense with honesty. And slowly, communication transforms from conflict to connection. Detachment in relationships doesn't mean caring less, it means caring consciously. It means not allowing temporary emotions to destroy long-term love. But sometimes, detachment means walking away not out of anger, but out of self-respect. Emotional intelligence teaches you that love without boundaries becomes self-betrayal. You can forgive someone without re-entering their chaos. You can wish them peace while protecting your own. You can let go not because you stopped loving, but because you started understanding. Detachment doesn't kill connection. It preserves it because it filters out the noise of ego, expectation, and fear. The most mature relationships are built on calm. They're not built on constant passion or emotional highs. They're built on safety, knowing that both people can express, disagree, and still respect each other. Emotional intelligence turns relationships into sanctuaries, not battlefields. You no longer need to control how someone sees you. You focus instead on how you show up. With honesty, with kindness, with accountability, you learn to listen not to respond, but to understand. You learn to apologize not to end the tension, but to honor the truth. You learn to express love without demanding it in return. Because mature love doesn't say, "I need you to make me happy." It says, "I'm already whole, and I choose to share that wholeness with you." Emotional detachment in relationships is not distance, it's depth. It allows two people to meet without merging, to love without losing identity, to connect without control. It's the kind of love that's calm instead of chaotic, steady instead of dramatic, free instead of fearful. When you reach that level of emotional awareness, you stop searching for someone to complete you. You look for someone who complements your peace. Because when two self-aware people meet, their connection doesn't drain energy, it multiplies it. True emotional maturity sounds like this. I love you, but I also love me. I'll be here for you, but I won't disappear for you. I understand your pain, but I won't make it mine. That's not coldness, that's clarity. That's the balance between heart and boundaries, the essence of emotional intelligence. The more emotionally intelligent you are, the less you argue and the more you connect. Because love doesn't need noise to prove itself. It needs presence to sustain itself. Chapter 11. Rewiring your self-talk. The way you speak to yourself is the way you live with yourself. And most people live with a voice that doesn't sound like a friend, it sounds like a critic. You hear it when you make a mistake, when you fall short, when you compare yourself to others, That harsh, unforgiving voice inside, it's not truth. It's programming. You weren't born talking to yourself that way. You learned it. From parents who were critical. From teachers who shamed mistakes. From a culture that celebrates perfection and punishes humanity. And without realizing it, you internalize those voices. They became your inner dialogue, a constant background noise of self-judgment. But here's the truth. You can't master your emotions if your own mind is hostile territory. Emotional detachment begins inside with how you handle your thoughts when no one's watching. Because if you can't detach from your inner critic, you'll always seek validation from others to quiet it. You can't feel safe around people until you feel safe inside your own head. So let's begin the rewiring. Step 1. Awareness. You can't change what you don't notice. Start paying attention to the tone of your inner voice. Is it impatient? Sarcastic? Hopeless? Would you ever speak to someone you love that way? When you catch yourself thinking harshly, pause and label it. That's self-criticism. That's fear talking. That's an old belief replaying. Labeling separates you from the voice. It reminds you that you are the listener, not the dialogue. Step 2. Identify the script. We all have internal sentences that repeat in different forms. I'm not good enough. I always mess things up. No one cares about me. I'll never change. These thoughts aren't facts, they're emotional memories. Echoes of old pain disguised as truth. Write them down. Bring them into the light. Because once seen, they lose power. Step 3. Reframe the narrative. For every negative script, create a rational, compassionate counterstatement. I always mess things up becomes, I make mistakes like everyone else, and I'm learning from them. No one cares about me becomes, I might have feel lonely, but that doesn't mean I'm unlovable. I'll never change becomes, I'm changing every time I try again. These are not affirmations, they're corrections. You're retraining your inner voice to speak in alignment with reality, not fear. Step 4. Practice compassionate dialogue. When something goes wrong, your instinct is to attack yourself before the world can. You say, I'm so stupid. I should have known better. But self-attack doesn't create growth. It creates paralysis. Imagine instead speaking to yourself like a mentor would. Use warmth without excuses. I made a mistake, but I'm still capable. I didn't handle that perfectly, but I can fix it. I'm struggling, but I'm learning. Compassion isn't weakness, it's accuracy, because clarity grows in kindness, not in cruelty. Step 5. Repetition and embodiment. Rewiring takes time. The brain learns through repetition, so feed it the voice you wish it had heard growing up. Every morning, start with one gentle sentence to yourself. Not forced positivity, grounded truth. Today, I choose to treat myself like someone worth caring for. Every night, end with reflection. What did I do well today? What did I handle better than before? This practice builds new neural pathways. You're literally teaching your brain to respond with grace instead of guilt. Step 6. Visualization. When you visualize, you rehearse emotional patterns before they happen. Picture your future self calm, confident, composed. Hear how that version of you speaks internally. They don't say, I can't handle this. They say, I've handled things before, I can handle this too. Repeat that voice until it feels natural, because the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between imagination and repetition. It simply learns what you feed it. This is how identity shifts. You stop being the person who reacts emotionally to every criticism and start being the one who regulates, reflects, and responds. Your emotional tone becomes softer, your decisions clearer, your mind quieter. And you realize something profound. Detachment was never about leaving others behind. It was about leaving your old self behind, the one built on self-doubt and fear. Self-talk is not background noise. It's the soundtrack of your reality. If that soundtrack is filled with harshness, no amount of outer calm will feel peaceful. But when it's filled with self-respect, you stop chasing approval from others because your own approval finally feels enough. You are not what you feel. You are what you repeat. So repeat awareness. Repeat compassion. Repeat truth. Until that becomes your voice. Until that becomes your calm. You are not what you feel. You are what you repeat. Chapter 12. The spiritual side of emotional mastery. There comes a point in emotional growth when self-control is no longer enough. You've learned to pause, to breathe, to respond, but something inside still aches for peace that logic alone can't provide. That's when the journey becomes spiritual. Emotional mastery without inner depth can make you calm but not whole, because peace isn't just the absence of reaction, it's the presence of awareness. True detachment isn't disconnection, it's deep connection with something larger than your emotions, something that remains still, even as everything else moves. When you reach this level, you begin to see emotions not as enemies or even lessons, but as waves rising, falling, passing. And behind those waves, you start to sense the ocean, the silent observer that never moves. That observer is you, the awareness behind the thoughts, the calm behind the chaos, the presence that watches every emotion come and go without being swept away. This is not coldness, it's consciousness. The spiritual side of detachment begins when you stop confusing stillness with suppression. You no longer force yourself to feel nothing. You simply allow what's there fully without judgment, without resistance, without story. You begin to realize the more you fight emotion, the longer it stays. But the moment you accept it, it softens and dissolves. Acceptance is the ultimate act of control, because when you stop trying to control the feeling, you regain control of your awareness. Stillness doesn't mean nothing happens. It means everything happens, and you stay centered anyway. It's sitting in silence while your thoughts try to pull you into drama and choosing to observe instead of obey. That moment when you realize you can watch emotion without becoming it is spiritual awakening in its purest form. Because you finally understand that peace was never something to create, it was something to uncover. Call it mindfulness, call it surrender, call it prayer. The name doesn't matter. What matters is the state of awareness, that deep, wordless recognition that you are not the emotion passing through you. You are the space it passes through. And in that recognition, you find freedom. Let's talk about control and surrender. They sound like opposites, but they're not. Control is what you practice when you don't yet trust. Surrender is what happens when you do. At the start of your journey, you use structure routines, breathing, boundaries to create safety. But eventually you realize that true safety doesn't come from controlling everything. It comes from trusting that you can handle whatever happens. That's surrender, not giving up, but letting go of resistance. You stop needing every emotion to make sense. You stop needing every person to understand you. You stop needing every plan to go perfectly. Because the deeper part of you knows nothing is truly against you. Everything is teaching you. This awareness gives birth to compassion. You start seeing others differently, not as problems to fix, but as humans fighting invisible battles, just like you once did. You forgive not because they deserve it, but because you deserve freedom from carrying the weight. You stop trying to win arguments. You start trying to preserve peace. You stop seeking revenge. You start seeking understanding. And the more compassion you extend outward, the more peace grows inward. Forgiveness, empathy, understanding. They are not spiritual luxuries, they are emotional technologies. They free trapped energy. They unclog the emotional system. You begin to realize something profound. Emotional mastery and spiritual maturity are the same journey, spoken in different languages. Both lead you home back to the quiet center that watches it all unfold. In that center, you no longer crave constant positivity. You crave presence. You crave simplicity. You crave truth. You start finding beauty in ordinary moments, the sound of your breath, the warmth of sunlight, the calm after tears. Because in stillness, even pain becomes sacred. It's just life expressing itself in another form. You finally understand. Emotional detachment isn't about being above life. It's about being within it, fully awake. You can cry without collapsing. You can care without clinging. You can love without losing yourself. Because you've remembered who you are beneath it, all the awareness that feels everything, but is owned by nothing. And that awareness is peace. Emotional mastery is spiritual maturity, disguised as calm. Chapter 13. Living as the calm in the storm. Life doesn't wait for you to be ready. It doesn't pause when you're overwhelmed. It doesn't get easier when you've learned to stay calm. The storm keeps coming. But you change. You stop asking for the storm to end and start learning how to stand in it unmoved, unshaken, unbroken. That's what it means to live as the calm in the storm. Because calm isn't built in peace. It's built in chaos. It's not learned through meditation apps or quiet rooms. It's learned in traffic, in arguments, in disappointments, in loss. It's forged in the fire you once thought would destroy you. When life unravels, a job lost, a dream delayed, a relationship ending, the first instinct is to collapse, to overthink, to blame, to panic. But detachment teaches you something radical. You can be hurting and still peaceful. You can be grieving and still grounded. You can be uncertain and still faithful to your own calm. Because peace is not the absence of pain, it's the refusal to let pain own you. Think of the eye of a hurricane. Around it, winds roar, chaos spins, everything is in motion. But at the center, complete stillness. That's emotional mastery. Not escaping the storm, but becoming the center of it. You don't react to everything that moves around you. You observe it. You let things pass through your awareness without shaking your foundation. You begin to see life not as a series of emergencies, but as a series of experiences, each meant to strengthen your center. Crisis doesn't build character. It reveals it. How you handle breakdowns says more about your strength than how you handle success. When you're in the middle of chaos, your emotions will try to take the wheel. Fear will say, run. Anger will say, attack. Sadness will say, give up. But detachment says, breathe, watch, respond. You can't control the wind, but you can control your sails. And sometimes, that's enough. Let's talk about loss, because sooner or later everyone meets it, a person, an opportunity, a version of yourself that once felt eternal. Loss isn't something to avoid, it's something to understand. It breaks open what you thought was permanent and teaches you impermanence is not cruelty, it's clarity. Everything changes. And the sooner you accept that, the freer you become. When something leaves your life, ask not, why did this happen? But what is this making space for? Pain clears the room so peace can move in. You learn to hold things lightly, to love deeply but release gracefully, to give fully without needing to keep. That's the paradox of detachment. The less you cling, the more life flows through you. Living as the calm in the storm also means becoming a leader quietly. Not with authority, but with presence. When others panic, you breathe. When others argue, you listen. When others react, you observe. You don't need to speak loudly to be powerful. You only need to be steady when others shake. People trust the calm ones, because calm says, I'm not controlled by fear. And that's magnetic. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs examples of peace. And when you embody that peace, you teach without speaking. But this way of living doesn't mean you stop feeling. You'll still get angry, still cry, still doubt. The difference is those emotions no longer define you. They visit, but they don't stay. You've stopped renting space in your mind to temporary feelings. You don't need to chase every thought or respond to every trigger. You simply return again and again to your center, and that return becomes your rhythm. Eventually, calm becomes your default. Not because life stopped testing you, but because you stopped testing life. You trust that everything will unfold exactly as it should. You've lived enough storms to know even destruction has design. You stop begging for control and start embracing flow. You start seeing setbacks as setups, loss as redirection, conflict as clarity. Because once you stop fighting life, you start dancing with it. And when that shift happens, you move differently. You speak slower, think deeper, listen longer. You stop trying to prove yourself, you start being yourself. Unrushed, unbothered, unmoved by temporary chaos. You become the calm others seek when they lose theirs. You become the quiet voice in a loud world. You become the eye in every storm, not because you conquered life, but because you finally understood it. That's what living as the calm in the storm truly means. To walk through chaos without carrying it. To feel pain without becoming it. To meet life's changes not with fear, but with grace. When you reach that state, you realize the goal was never control, it was harmony. The world doesn't stop spinning. You just stop losing your balance. And when the next storm comes, you'll smile. Because you'll recognize it. You've been here before. You've learned how to breathe through the thunder. You've learned how to dance in the rain. You've learned how to be calm, not because life got softer, but because you did. You've become the peace you were always chasing. You've become the calm in the storm. Chapter 14, 30-Day Integration Plan. Understanding emotional detachment is one thing. Living it, that's the real art. Change doesn't happen from what you learn once. It happens from what you practice repeatedly. Mastery is built through consistency, tiny, deliberate actions that train your brain, calm your body, and anchor your peace. So, here's your 30-day blueprint, a journey to turn awareness into embodiment. Not rules, not perfection, just practice. Because calm isn't found overnight. It's built one mindful choice at a time. Week 1. Awareness. The stop method. This week is about slowing down the loop between trigger and reaction. Every time you feel tension, stop. When emotion rises, stop. Use the stop method. Stop. Take a breath. Observe. Proceed. At the end of each day, write down the moments when you reacted and how you could have responded instead. You're not judging yourself, you're training awareness. This is where emotional mastery begins, in noticing before reacting. By day 7, you'll start to sense the pause, that sacred second between feeling and action. That's your freedom expanding. Week 2. Reframing emotional labeling. This week we focus on clarity, transforming chaos into understanding. Each time a strong emotion arises, pause and name it. I feel anxious. I feel angry. I feel hurt. Label it clearly, because what you can name, you can manage. Then reframe it. Ask, what else could this mean? What's this emotion trying to teach me? Practice writing 3 alternate interpretations for every negative situation that happens this week. By the end of week 2, You'll start realizing your power isn't in controlling feelings, it's in controlling the meaning you give them. Week 3. Controlled discomfort recovery. Now that you've stabilized awareness, it's time to strengthen resilience. Introduce one controlled challenge daily, something slightly uncomfortable but safe. Take a cold shower. Do a hard workout. Have that honest conversation you've been avoiding. Wake up 30 minutes earlier for stillness. The goal isn't pain, it's proof. You're showing your mind that discomfort isn't danger. Balance this with recovery, rituals, evening walks, quiet reflection, journaling, no screen time. Discomfort strengthens, recovery integrates. By the end of this week, you'll feel it, a quiet confidence. The storm comes, but it doesn't move you as much anymore. Week 4. Alignment, emotional integration. This final week is about living your peace, not performing it. Every morning, write one sentence of alignment. What emotion do I choose to embody today? Maybe it's calm, maybe it's patience, maybe it's gratitude. Throughout the day, act in alignment with that choice. Not to suppress other emotions, but to lead them. End each night with reflection. What tested me today? How did I handle it? What did I learn about myself? If you fail some days, that's fine. Mastery isn't a straight line, it's a spiral. Every return to awareness deepens the lesson. By the end of 30 days, something subtle but powerful happens. You start responding slower, thinking clearer, breathing deeper, feeling lighter. You'll notice that your peace no longer depends on others. That silence no longer feels empty. That stillness no longer feels strange. You've built an emotional home within yourself, a calm that travels with you everywhere. Because emotional detachment isn't withdrawal. It's ownership. It's knowing that your emotions belong to you, not to your past, not to people, not to chaos. You've learned to feel without falling, to love without losing, to care without collapsing. You've learned to stay grounded when life trembles, to see storms as teachers, to walk through pain with dignity. And now you live what others only talk about, peace that doesn't depend on peace around you. When the world shakes, the calm person leads. You've become that person. Not cold but clear. Not detached but deeply aware. Not empty but free. Because the art of emotional detachment was never about becoming less human. It was about becoming fully alive without losing yourself in the noise. You don't need fewer emotions. You need more awareness. And now you have it. Closing CTA, the final reflection. If you've made it this far, you've done something most people never do. You've stopped running from your emotions and started understanding them. You've learned that control isn't suppression, it's awareness. That peace isn't a gift, it's a practice. And that emotional detachment isn't coldness, it's clarity. You've walked through your own storms. You've met your triggers. You've faced your fears. And in doing so, you've found something rare, the quiet strength of self-mastery. Remember this, the world will always try to pull you back into noise. But now you know where silence lives. It's in you. It always was. Keep practicing awareness. Keep protecting your peace. Keep choosing calm over chaos, truth over reaction, presence over performance. And when life gets heavy, return to yourself. Breathe. Pause. Remember who you are beneath it all. Not the storm, but the sky that holds it. Because no matter what happens around you, you have the power to remain still inside. That's the real art, the art of emotional detachment. If this audiobook brought you value, share it with someone who's searching for peace. Because calm is contagious, and when one person heals, it creates space for others to heal too. Until next time, stay gentle, stay grounded, and stay aware. You don't need fewer emotions, you just need more understanding. And now you have both.